If you're already a subscriber, welcome back. And if you're new here, my name is Mark and I built an agency called Scaling Webinars to 7 figures in our first year of business alongside with my co-founders. So if you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering who I am, how I got here, and why I'm even making content like this in the first place. So I want to be incredibly clear about that. In 2026, I'm dedicating the entire year to content creation, and this is why. A few months ago, I caught myself thinking about my dad, who's my personal hero. And the crazy part is there's almost no record of him on the internet at all. So there's no videos, no lessons, and he didn't document his journey. And I realized how much I wish I could hear him explain how he thought as a young man and entrepreneur, the mistakes he made, the lessons he learned. So this channel is for the future version of me. It's for the past version of me. And one day it's for my kids so they can understand exactly how I thought while I was building the life that they eventually grow up in. But I'm also documenting how we plan to grow Scaling Webinars from 7 figures to 8 figures and beyond. And through videos like these, I want to attract the best talent in the world that's going to help take my company to the next level. And that requires people to obviously know who they're going to work for and what I stand for. And this is also for future partners and clients at Scaling Webinars, where we partner with a select group of founders and creators who sell alternative education online, and we help scale their business to multiple 7 figures. So if you're watching this, I want you to understand exactly who you'd be working with. So without further ado, this is a story of how a 5th grade class president turned into a 7-figure business owner. So I grew up in a household where failure wasn't an option. And that's not because my parents were harsh, but it's because they sacrificed everything for me and my siblings. So my parents, they came from Haiti, from absolutely nothing. They were immigrants with no connections. They just had a belief that if they worked hard enough, their kids could have a life that they never thought they could have. So from as early as I can remember, the expectation was clear. Do something meaningful with your life. Do something big and make the sacrifice worth it. Because of that, I was obsessed with business as a kid. So my dad was an entrepreneur and I always admired the relationships that he built and the respects he had. So I can distinctly remember as a kid, my dad, he had an old phone. And in that phone, he'd have thousands and thousands of contacts. And I remember I got a hold of his phone for whatever reason. And I asked him, like, yo, Pops, why do you have so many contacts of people? And he told me something that I'll never forget, and something that I stand on to this day as an entrepreneur, is that business is all about people. That's what he told me. Mark, you don't make money without people. And from there on, that's when I started my entrepreneurial journey. So being an entrepreneur was never about the money for me. To be honest, I would have done most of it for free. But what fascinated me about being an entrepreneur was the ability to take an idea from my head and turn it into something real that people would pay for. So I was the kid that was selling lemonade at school, candy, and every little business idea that I could come up with. But my real entrepreneurial journey started in the 5th grade. And I know hearing that you may laugh, but I genuinely believe that's when my entrepreneurship DNA started. So my elementary school, they had an election for the 5th grade class president. And honestly, I remember that I didn't even want to run. To be honest, it was probably just a girl that made me run or something like that. So in the beginning, I had to give a presentation to the entire class. A select group of us from each of the classes in our 5th grade would stand up and give a talk to the class about why they should hire us. So I remember having a blank note card and walking to the front of the room. And I didn't even realize or notice the thing I was going to talk about. But I looked at my 5th grade class, and everyone at my 5th grade wore uniforms. So it was green shirt, blue shirt, khaki pants, khaki long pants, and khaki shorts. That's what everyone wore. And we carried these ugly binders with us everywhere that everyone was given. So I looked at the 5th grade class and I thought about what is the one thing that everyone in my school cared about. And I came up with one word, and that was backpacks. So I took my note card, I put it in my pocket. I looked at my students, my fellow classmates, and I told them that if you vote for me, I promise to get you backpacks. So the room went silent, and then everyone started to clap. And I didn't know it at that moment, but it taught me the very first lesson about entrepreneurship, one that I still use today as a marketer. And that's if you understand what people truly want, you can move an entire room. And in that moment, I also realized in order to accomplish big things, you need supreme confidence. And even as a kid, that's what gave it to me. And I carried that confidence into middle school, in high school, and eventually into my very first real business, which was reselling sneakers. So fast forward a few years later, I graduated high school and I moved to Tampa for college. And in college, I knew I wanted to build a business that was huge. And I worked a ton of jobs. I worked at restaurants and I even pushed dead bodies around to the morgue, which is a story for another time. But the job that changed my life was working at a sneaker store called Jimmy Jazz. And at the time, I didn't know anything about sneakers, but once again, I knew what people wanted. So I would watch people camp outside of Jimmy Jazz for hours. And one day I asked the store, one of our employees, and I asked, why the heck are so many people camped outside of our store for hours? And he told me, well, they're waiting to buy sneaker releases. So I remember there was one release called the Jordan 4 Fire Red 4s. And I posted a picture of them on my Snapchat story. At that moment, I had a friend from high school swipe up on the Snapchat story, and they asked me how much for those sneakers. When I tell people this story, I always describe it as the moment, if you watch Jimmy Neutron, where the neurons and stuff just started firing in his brain. And at that moment, I realized, okay, crap, I can make money. So the shoes were sitting on the shelf for $140. I texted her back $240. And she answered, send me your Cash App. And in that moment, I learned my second lesson of business, and that's supply and demand controls everything. If you have something so rare that people want it, they'll pay whatever for it. At that moment, I became obsessed with reselling. But the truth is, I wasn't even that good at it. I didn't even know how to source shoes or where to sell them. So in order to figure that out, I joined a Discord where a bunch of kids in Tampa, they were selling sneakers through this Discord. So I remember there was this one kid in particular. He was posting all of his shoes, the hundreds of shoes that he would get in the city of Tampa every single week. And I was just so baffled. I was like, dude, how the heck are you finding these shoes? How are you getting these shoes? How are you selling these shoes? I messaged him and I said, yo, bro, if you could please show me where you're getting these shoes, where you're finding these sneakers. And at first he told me to screw off. But over time of me consistently asking him every single day if he could help me out, we eventually teamed up and started selling sneakers together. And that was my first business partner and my business partner at our agency to this day. So me and my partner, Brian, we did millions of dollars in sneaker sales together. We sold thousands of shoes and we became one of the biggest resellers in Florida. And that journey taught me my third lesson of business. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Because on a long enough time horizon, you will never beat a good team. So the sneaker market started to die out, and my business partner Brian and I realized something. If we wanted to level up, we needed new skills. So I wanted to do something that couldn't be taken away from me. Something that even if I went broke, I could completely rebuild from. And sneakers were cool, but nobody needs sneakers. So I started looking online, and that's when I found marketing. And I knew nothing about it, but running a reselling business taught me most of what mattered when running a business in general. Understanding people, managing cash flow, building relationships, and managing a team. So we launched an e-commerce agency working with Facebook ads for e-com clients. So my business partner Brian had a background in Google ads, running ads for his dad's travel agency. So he thought, how hard could Facebook be? And turned out it was very hard if you ran Facebook ads before. And there were millions of agencies. So we did free work, we tried everything, and nothing really stuck. And this brings me to the fourth lesson that I've learned in business. You can have the right skills, but if you're playing in the wrong arena, you'll still lose. And eventually we discovered that the creator economy and online education was the best place to offer our services. So we decided to run ads for one of our buddies who was in the reselling space, selling a coaching program completely for free. And from that moment on, we learned everything about mastering paid advertising, funnels, and sales teams. So how does that bring us to where we are here today with my company, Scaling Webinars? Well, during that time of mastering funnels, ads, and sales teams, we realized one thing, and that's that a webinar is the best way to acquire customers and clients for any business. So the very first funnel we've ever built actually was a webinar funnel. And from that moment on, we became absolutely obsessed with customer acquisition, client journey, and webinar funnels. So through that entire path, we realized that in order to scale even further, me and Brian could no longer do it by ourselves. And that's where we met our partners, Audie, and KJ, who completely took over our entire sales part of our organization. And since then, together, the four of us have generated over $10 million of webinar revenue for our clients. We've built the #1 full stack webinar growth agency in the world, and it's all because I decided to run for 5th grade class president. So if you take anything from this story, let it be this. I had no idea that being a 5th grade class president would eventually lead to me becoming a 7-figure business owner and eventually an 8-figure one. And you have no idea the potential that's hidden inside of you. You have no idea which version of yourself is waiting to be unlocked. Because your entire life can change the moment you decide, why not me? So to our future colleagues and partners and employees, I hope this gives you an insight as to who you'll be working for and what we stand for. And to our future clients, we believe deeply in changing the world through alternative education, and we can't wait to build something massive together. And to my future kids, I make these videos so you can see the lessons, the wins, and the losses that your grandfather wasn't able to document for me. So I hope you take them, and I hope you run with them, and I'll see you guys in the next one.